PC parts just got a whole lot cheaper in New Zealand. Amazon has finally arrived to New Zealand, well technically at least. You can now purchase PC parts off Amazon Australia and ship it to New Zealand for cheaper shipping rates than the US Amazon. I was having a browse and there are a number of parts that are significantly cheaper than purchasing them from New Zealand. A few things to keep in mind is I've said before and how to get the deals on PC parts video. If you want to go and check it out, you can check it out on the top right hand corner, but I will say them again. First of all, there's a 15% GST tax on all imported goods to New Zealand. So every item on Amazon automatically has this GST charge attached to them. Now you probably will need to calculate it as I didn't see it adding on to the price, so just keep that in mind. Now this is usually not a deterrent as sometimes the price plus GST charge is still cheaper than buying the same parts in New Zealand. Second of all is the exchange rate. Depending on the New Zealand dollar to Australian dollar exchange rate, prices will fluctuate. This is because prices and tax on Amazon Australia are displayed in an Australian dollar. Although the New Zealand dollar to Australian dollar rate is quite high and generally quite stable, you will be getting a rate that's quite good and usually above 88 cents from your bank. But do keep in mind it depends on where the exchange rate is and this will fluctuate. The best thing to do is to go to xe.com, which has real-time updates on the exchange rate. Just keep in mind that you will not have the exchange rate when you pay with your card and will be a bit less than the quoted exchange rate on xe.com. For example, if xe.com has it at $1 New Zealand is equal to 93 cents Australian, you will probably pay about $1 New Zealand is equal to about 88 cents Australian, as the banks need to make a small profit to minimize their costs when exchanging the currency for you. Third of all, you kind of don't have a warranty when buying off Amazon. What I mean by this is that you just can't return this part to the store. You will actually have to contact Amazon and ship the part back. Don't quote me on this, from my understanding at your own cost I'm assuming. Personally, I have never needed to return a part to Amazon before, therefore I don't really know too much about their warranty returns process. Also, along with this, you don't get the awesome consumer rights like you do in New Zealand, for example, the Consumer Guarantees Act. Fourth, it's also good to keep in mind that a lot of things sold on Amazon Australia are actually sold by actual retail stores and are not backed up by official Amazon stores unlike the Amazon US. So it's always good to check reviews on these stores and see what other people say. I'm not really sure how this affects warranty, but it is good to keep in mind. Fifth on the list, also with shortages, make sure you check the dispatch times as they can be longer, from 1 to 2 months, which I have seen on Amazon Australia. So just keep that in mind. Some parts will ship later. If you're willing to do that and the price is good enough, then it's probably okay, but do keep in mind you will be waiting quite a while. Sixth on the list, make sure you always add up the tax, shipping, and convert the price using XE in the current exchange rate to see if the parts are actually cheaper on Amazon AU or you're better off buying them in New Zealand still. A good way to check this is to check that price that you converted and check the price on Price Spy or any other site like that in New Zealand. PC Part Picker will also do you good for that. Now let's get on to some examples, the bad stuff first. Not everything is cheaper off Amazon. For example, the Samsung 870 QVO is still cheaper to purchase in New Zealand compared to Amazon AU. AU means Australia. I have also found case fans are relatively cheaper in New Zealand. Considering that the difference is below 10%, I'd probably consider purchasing them in New Zealand, as you can get them on special sometimes. Plus, you'll be able to get the awesome Consumer Guarantees Act that we have in New Zealand. My rule is if the part is within 5 to 10% margin and being cheaper on Amazon Australia or somewhere else, I will purchase the part in New Zealand, as I don't have to forego any warranty or hassles if something goes wrong. Personally, I would also not risk buying a few items such as monitors, as you are buying them blind and there's no easy way to return them if they come defective, for example with a black spot, and also if they come damaged due to shipping. Now this could be common in some instances, but It's generally not too much of an issue, but it is something good to keep in mind. Second of all, hard drives for storing personal data, as the warranties and recovery should be handled in the country of origin, where you purchased them from, If they are purely for games, it's fine, as you won't really lose anything, and same goes for SSDs. That's the same rule I've used, so if it's for games, it's fine. If it's for storing personal data, I will purchase them in New Zealand. Third of all, motherboards are an iffy one, as some things can go wrong. But at the same time, they are so much cheaper off Amazon AU. I will be willing to forego the warranty that I get in New Zealand in order to purchase something so much cheaper. Fourth on the list, AIOs for water cooling. I would avoid this one, as for if anything goes wrong, for example if it leaks, which is very unlikely with modern day coolers, but it can happen sometimes, you are screwed and your system is screwed as well. At least if you purchase it in New Zealand, you still have a warranty, and under the CGA they'll be able to cover your entire build. You'll be completely covered if the water leaks and it, for example, damages your graphics card, your motherboard, and any other parts that might have got caught up in the AIO from leaking. So do keep that in mind. Fifth on the list, we've got power supplies. At least for my main gaming builds, I would purchase them from New Zealand. If it's a lower rated one for a cheaper build, for example for like a server or a really cheap gaming PC, I would purchase it off Amazon AU, foregoing the warranties in New Zealand because of how cheap they are. But it is something good to keep in mind for power supplies to try and purchase it in New Zealand as much as possible. It is a little bit more expensive, I've seen. It's actually in some instances up to about $50 cheaper off Amazon AU, but do keep in mind the hassles you're going to have to deal with if anything goes wrong with warranty. And at the same time, I don't really know how the warranty system works. So 6 on the list, RAM, GPUs, CPUs, cases, and other components such as case fans, in my opinion, are fine to buy online off Amazon Australia. They generally have a lower chance of anything going wrong with them in my personal experience. And just one note on graphics cards as well. Personally, if a graphics card first releases, I would avoid purchasing it overseas like from Amazon AU, as sometimes there can be issues with them at release, as we've seen in previous generations. Be careful with cases as well, and remember that the glass on them or other parts can break easily while shipping. Cases are quite cheap off Amazon though, and they do give a lot of options. Just something to keep in mind for you guys. Now for the good stuff. I have found motherboards to be significantly cheaper off Amazon AU. Here is an example of an Asus B550 TUF M80X motherboard, which is nearly about $80 cheaper off Amazon AU than it is in New Zealand. It's quite a significant price reduction, and with some special sale prices in New Zealand, they don't even come close to matching the normal prices off Amazon AU. Specifically, motherboards are cheaper off Amazon AU, but I also have found cases to be a lot cheaper with far more options. There are many examples of parts being significantly cheaper off Amazon AU, but this is a little snapshot. So that's the end of the video. I'm really happy that Amazon is finally available to New Zealand at reasonable prices with good shipping rates. This will open the door to more competition and hopefully cheaper prices overall for everyone in New Zealand. It's about time New Zealand PC retailers bring down their prices and finally be a bit more competitive. Amazon AU has opened up more opportunities to make cheaper PCs even in this expensive market we are in right now. Now, I will be able to recommend parts of Amazon AU in my PC builds for New Zealand so that everyone can get a few deals here and there. Stay tuned for a few parts featuring off Amazon AU soon, and make sure to subscribe to see them. Thank you guys very much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! For more awesome content, head to ystech.org, link in the description.